So, Fiona, how is Shrek?
Shrek is fine. My Shrek is fine.
Your Shrek is fine. So
Yes.
anyway, Princess Fiona, let's leave the cartoon alone. So kindly introduce yourself to the audience, but maybe I will go first for our audience's sake. I'm Catherine Mutesi Mugabo. I work with the Civ Legacy Foundation as a programs manager there and very passionate about shaping narratives on giving. And you've just attended a fantastic gathering of givers at Nderi, the 6th edition.
Yeah.
And so just really welcome to this cherry
podcast.
The community podcast 2025.
Yes.
But the cherry on the cake is that having given your time the entire day, we are here to have this conversation. So maybe to help our listeners, who is Fiona? What is not the Fiona of Shrek, the real Fiona,
the real one,
and then your earliest memory of generosity, and perhaps the community that you serve.
Okay. My name is Phiona Nanozi Ngoga.
Okay.
And I like to describe myself as a giving person. I like to help people.
Thank you.
Yes. Okay. And I think for me, when I even talk about this, it's really from something that I've had my dad say several times. So, I mean, there's some of those childhood memories that we do not remember, but our parents remind us. And I think for me, one of those memories was, as a kid, I always gathered the neighbors' kids to come and have something to eat at home.
Wow.
And, that's when our parents were away. And when they found us, at home with kids full in the house because they've been brought here to eat, my dad was like, not again. Like, where does this stop? When does it stop? Yeah. So I think for me, there's a time that he kept mentioning that. And I think it's something that keeps re-echoing in my mind. And, just kind of pulls out those strings or pulls at the strings of my heart when it comes to people and, just helping people. Yeah.
Okay. And so does that mean that your community of service are children, your childhood community?
It's actually not. It's actually not. It's something totally different. So I serve individuals and couples who are struggling with infertility.
Oh, okay.
Yes. And this is something I started really because of personal experience. So fertility is something that I've struggled with. And there are challenges that I've experienced along the way. And for me, I just felt like, there are some things that society has normalized for someone who is struggling with fertility.
Okay.
And I just felt like that wasn't right.
Okay.
I've heard of people who's, there's infidelity in the fertility world, and it's almost normalized when the husband goes out to try and have a child, because the wife is not able to have a child, or the in-laws are, mistreating the wife because she's not able to give birth to a kid in the family. Yeah. So there's all these stories that because of the society or the community that I've, of the ladies that I have around me, you hear all these stories every day about something like this happening. And I think for me, when I first heard these stories, it was just, I was just in shock at how it is okay for women to go through these things, and it is okay. It seems okay. The society feels like, you should suffer because you're going through this thing, or you shouldn't speak up, or you've been reduced to something like this, this kind of, it was so inhuman for me. And that is really what drove me to starting this organization. So yes, I lead an organization, an NGO called Rainbow Hearts Foundation. And yes, we create awareness about infertility. We create access to mental health support, and we create access to medical interventions.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you, Fiona. So it's very disturbing that the assumption that only women, like if there's any, if that should be taken as an issue, then it should be the woman's issue.
Exactly. Yes.
And yet, when you talk about having started this organization, are there instances where you've actually found the reverse is true? They are actually punishing the wrong person.
Yes.
And the actual person which shouldn't really be happening, but perhaps the person who needs support is the other party.
Is the other person, yes.
Yeah.
So there's actually a lady that I met when I was on my journey. And this lady's husband had low sperm count. And this lady was on, I think maybe like her third IVF treatment. And she had basically tried the first one, they had failed. She was on her third. But you see, so just the physical, mental toll that fertility treatments take you through, and this lady said her in-laws kept, traumatizing her and saying all kinds of things to her and wanting to chase her out of the house, wanting to get another wife, openly telling her that they're trying to get another wife for the husband. Yet she was going through all these things because the husband had low sperm count. And she protected the husband so much that she couldn't even tell the in-laws when they were coming at her with all these words of insult, that it's actually their son who was struggling with the fertility issue.
But was the fertility treatment she was receiving going to help the husband on the other hand?
Now, you see, so what I talk about, when this thing, it's very passionate for me, and even supporting the women, because society thinks this is a woman's problem. And we've also seen that it's mostly the woman who suffers. And, fertility is the only treatment or the only disease where the woman is going to get treated when the husband has the problem.
Oh, dear God.
So if they need to use IVF, the woman is going to go through the exact same IVF cycle that I would go through when I'm struggling with something, to treat the husband's problem.
For real?
Yes. So if the husband has low sperm count or lack of sperm and they need to go through IVF too, the woman has to go through an IVF cycle. So she's going to go through the physical toll, the mental toll, all these things to treat what the husband is struggling with.
We are a generous gender, aren't we?
We are.
My goodness. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, so there's really a lot, especially around the women, when it comes to fertility issues. And that is for us where the awareness really is heavy. And even the support groups that we have are really targeting the women, because we are the more vulnerable gender when it comes to, this condition. Yeah.
Oh dear. Okay, and thank you, Phiona, for even being vulnerable to share your story, not only here, but also for the work that you've already been doing.
Yeah.
And you really shine a spotlight on generosity that is often perhaps even trodden on or goes unnoticed.
Yeah.
The fact that you have to deal with the emotion. You talked about women protecting their husbands.
Yeah.
Even when they know.
Yeah.
Sometimes the issue is not with them.
Yeah.
But also to appeal to, because sometimes the poor are mistreating you the most are your fellow women.
Yes. Yes.
So where is our generosity in terms of even understanding, extending grace? And in any case, really, what makes us think that the only measure of a significant relationship is where they are biological children?
Yeah.
We are in a world where we have more options today. So
yeah.
What would be your message, especially first of all to other? Let's help speak into the lives of other women that go on the shooting side.
Yeah.
What would be your message to them?
So for me, when we even talk about the generosity, there's a lot of, for one to go through this journey, and it's a very traumatizing journey. It's a very, everything that you have to go through, from the social impact to the physical impact to the emotional impact to the financial impact, it is a very draining journey. And the fact that you actually continue to put yourself in that, to just be selfless and allow yourself to go through, and because we know that even the treatments that we do, there's no guarantee that, they're going to work. So for me, I find that there's a lot of generosity in these women, just giving their health, their lives, to continuously go through whatever it is that they're going through, to try and actually make the family complete or have a child, because the family or the husband's family has really demanded it, Yeah. So there's really so much generosity when it comes to the women who are being so selfless to go through, this kind of trauma.
So they're giving of their health,
of their time,
they're
finances,
giving of their emotions, finances.
Yes, finances, a lot of it. Their social, relationships. So they're giving of everything, basically.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I had never even thought about that aspect of generosity. Thank you for telling us about how infertility is the only treatment that women have to undertake, even though they are treating
that. Yes.
Oh wow,
it is.
Wow. Thank you. And so I know I had asked you to speak to the women, who sometimes join the shooting party.
Yes.
to crucify another lady going through an issue, what would you say to the men? Are there people who have been generous that we need to also recognize in this struggle? Because you're saying it's very exhausting. Who are some of the enablers and helpers on this journey that have actually extended generosity to
someone who
people
is
that
struggling.
are struggling? Yeah.
Okay, maybe let me start with the shooting side. Then I'll come to those who are actually being generous. And I think when I talk about people who speak or, speak ill or are crucifying someone who is going through fertility issues, I say a lot that it's out of ignorance.
Okay.
Because we do not understand the magnitude or the impact that it's having on one's quality of life, as they're going through this journey. So for me, it's to extend grace. Extend grace to one who is struggling, but also be very cautious about the kind of questions or the kind of comments that you make around someone. I have had those comments myself. Someone, even after sharing my journey extensively, about my fertility journey, I still have people come and ask me. I'm lucky to have twins. I have my twins through IVF treatment. And the people still come and ask me, so when are you going to have other kids? But you do not know what my struggles are. Or if I'm trying, I'm still trying and I'm failing, So for me, it's really to just be cautious about the kind of comments and the questions that we ask people. And there are very generous people also on this journey. We have, and they can be, even a stranger can extend generosity to one who is struggling. And for me, it's just in the kind of support, and this support really does not, there is no concrete, there's nothing concrete about the kind of support that one can give to someone who is struggling with fertility. But even just listening to me talking, I'll come and I'll be overwhelmed with emotion, overwhelmed with, stuff, and I just want to talk it out. And, you'll just have a generous soul just listening to you. And I can say this because I have a friend who, really supported me. She didn't know she was doing it for me.
Wow.
And it's later on that I actually told her what she did for me in that time.
Oh, wow.
It was just to call and make me laugh.
Wow.
About, the weirdest things out of my journey. And for me, that went, it really, really spoke volumes for me, because this person's relationship with me was not just about, every time she spoke to me or every time she saw me, she wasn't just seeing infertility walking, She saw Phiona, and because of the other sides of Phiona. So that is all she focused on, spoke about, our fun times and all these other aspects of life.
Wow.
So she really contributed so much to, making my journey easier and more bearable.
Wow. So the destiny helpers, the helping hands, the humorous friends, the people that know how you're struggling, but find ways of journeying with you and energizing you along that draining journey.
Exactly, along that draining journey.
Do you want to thank, what's her name?
She's called Brenda Migisha.
Brenda Migisha. We celebrate you for having been that person that gives of your humor and of your time consciously. And you also have cautioned us around the need to be mindful what we say, the questions we ask, that sometimes we can actually
trigger and and there also there's a lady who I know, she's just gone through her IVF treatment, and her sisters were there. I mean, her sisters rallied behind her, because the costs of IVF treatment, I mean, they're very high. So when she was in a very desperate situation, and she had lost all hope, her sisters rallied behind her. They fundraised money, they collected money and paid for IVF treatment. So there are really very many forms of generosity. I think it's just to understand what kind of help that does this person need. And as I mentioned, just that time to listen to the person and know what their need is. In the moment, my need might not be financial, but my need might be mental. And someone else, their need might be financial. Yes.
So not to assume a one size fits all. So as your parting shots, what are some of the commonest hurtful questions, unintended many times, that are asked that maybe our audience can learn from and say, okay, maybe I will not be asking? You can give us like two And maybe one helpful thing we could do, what is that in addition to what you shared?
I hope I'm able to share just two. So some of them are, I've been asked, or someone saw me at a time when I was doing my IVF treatment. And because of the side effects of the treatment, my stomach was bloated. So I looked pregnant, and the person met me and told me Kongs.
Oh dear.
But this was a time when I was in a very, my journey was very blank. I didn't know, or, uncertain. I was uncertain of the outcomes of the treatment. And so I was receiving a Kong. So I do not know what an answer to that is.
Okay.
And there are people who come and ask.
So we should avoid assuming
that the person is pregnant just because they look, just because they look pregnant. If the person has not mentioned it, they could just be bloated.
Okay.
They could be going through an IVF treatment.
Okay.
They could be going through any medical issue that is causing them to actually look pregnant. Yes.
Okay.
And there's someone who meets you and asks you, why are you waiting too long? Don't you want to have children? But you ask someone, and this person is probably in the midst of a failed IVF cycle. This person is in the midst of a miscarriage, and you're asking them, why are you taking too long? Don't you want to have kids? So those are some of the things that we need to avoid. Just because someone does not have kids, you do not know what their journey is. You do not know what their struggle is at the time. So let us not assume that it is, everyone's journey is not laid out the same.
Okay, it's not a linear journey, and it doesn't have to look the same.
Exactly.
And what is that one thing that is definitely helpful and generous to give to that? Because sometimes you will never know.
Yeah.
So is there any particular thing that any day if you did this, that would be a helper on the journey?
I think, when honestly, there's not one thing that I can point out, because as I mentioned, this journey is very different. It is not one size fits all. It is very different for, very many different people. But as I mentioned also, just to try and understand what the person is going through and ask how you can be of support to them in that time.
Okay.
Yes.
And to respect if they are seemingly not forthcoming.
Exactly.
It could be that they're being politely needing
space. They need space.
Okay.
And if the person, just take the clues. I keep telling people, you can read the clues.
Okay.
If someone can just give you like a very small opening into that conversation, you take advantage of that. But if the person has totally not talked about their fertility journey, then it is not in your place to actually bring it up, whether you've had of it from family, from friends, from wherever it is. But if the person hasn't told you directly, then most times it's because they do not want to talk
to you about it.
Exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Phiona.
You're welcome.
For the very insightful conversation.
You're welcome.
And we've had some guidance around how we can be generous to the community of people that are struggling with an exhausting journey, trying to find life, or give life to others.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. And I hope and pray that we have at least learned not to ask questions, and not to assume.
Yes.
And to take the clues. That's a very helpful clue.
Yes. And to just extend grace.
And extend grace.
Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, viewers. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you, Phiona.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
All right. Regards to Shrek.